keep in mind, we have received monies in November, but that's actually money from October on one of the items. The monies that you're gonna get from November and December, which are historically your bigger months, those monies will show up, one of them in December, the other one in January. So,
I second Bob's motion.
There's a second on the floor, discussion. Well, Mr. Hancock has done a lot of work in here, it looks like. The only issue, though, I do have an issue, as opposed to tackling the overages, we're adding to it.
Well, one thing,
And I don't know if that's appropriate.
we did not put enough money in the budget to even cover the police department salaries and overtime. I mean, it's just not there.
Yeah, I don't think we're adding to it, I think we're adjusting to it.
Right, because,
You know, that's what a budget is, you make it, and then, you know, you use the money you have, or figures you have, the averages you have, and do your best guess, and then you adjust.
I mean, you can add up all the police department salaries and a reasonable amount of overtime, and it's more than what we even put on the budget. So, I mean, there's just no way around it, we're gonna be over every month.
But one way we looked at, during the budget time, I know we discussed any overages, we were gonna sit back to repay from last year's over expenditure. And that's kind of eliminating that position now by taking away our surplus and put them to the expenses.
Well, it's a legitimate expense, I mean, I guess, I don't even understand what's going on here. I mean, the salaries are there, we're paying these guys X amount, and yet our budget says we're gonna just have, you know, about, what, I've forgotten how many $1,000 it's really short. I mean, how does that make any sense? I truly do not understand.
The overage,
No,
overexpenditure?
why, when we are in actual time, we are paying X amount of dollars out, why our budget figure says we're only gonna pay
It's, okay,
part of that.
here's a more long-term view, as I should have probably mentioned this earlier. It's $160,000. That's over the surplus right now. We just heard a discussion earlier this evening about not being able to give raises. Well, if we spend every penny we get surplus, there's never gonna be a raise, ever. And that's why, I mean, you've got to start building up money, it's like any other business. You don't spend every dime you make.
But we are spending it, we've already obligated it, when we hired these policemen and said we're gonna pay them $12 an hour, and we did all these other things, we're spending it.
That happens in half of the houses in Kennett every week, people live from paycheck to paycheck, until something happens, they get ahead. And that's where we are, so that's the way I see it. You know, we've gotta pay these guys, so, you know, we use the money we've got to pay them.
And then, and like I said, and then get hold of it and stop. And I mean, I don't even like saying we're gonna take money from the fire department or the whoever, because they've done a good job. I know, I'm not sure about the fire department, but I know the street department's working a couple of guys short now. They have positions, so, you know, because they maybe can do that more easily than the police or fire. So, personally, I don't even like to hear that, but I can live with that. But I'm just saying that we have already obligated this money, so I don't understand why there's a problem with saying, let's adjust our figures to be realistic, and then save back what we can. But there's no use fooling ourselves and saying every month, oh my God, the police department's over budget. Of course they're over budget, we didn't give them enough money in the budget to start with.
Well, my understanding, and if I'm wrong, tell me, but this is just a one-time adjustment using the extra money we have right now, correct?
That's right.
That's right.
We'll redo the budget and
I mean,
hopefully
it's-
get on track, and we won't have this over the overages in the.
I mean, it's not saying for the rest of the fiscal year we'd use all the money the
That's
same way.
That's right.
So that's not pulling the money out of the sales tax too, that we set aside for cleanup, and that's not pulling that money aside?
This is not touching any of the allocations which we made from the sales tax when we budgeted. Park and pool, $250,000, city cleanup, $125,000, capital purchases, $200,000, reserve fund, $100,000.
So it's not pulling
Those
from any of
monies
that.
were set aside based on the amount of money we anticipated getting in. This $160,000 is income that is not budgeted, was not anticipated. And all I'm proposing is, let's allocate this money, cover what we've got now. It will also give them a little bit of pad beyond what they're over for the next few months. If they continue to reduce their cost, which I think they've done a heck of a good job, haven't necessarily got under budget, but it's certainly not spending what they were spending,
Seems to be coming down
Continue.
each month.
I think we'll wind up a solid year.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Yes, sir.
Along that line,
Yes, sir.
You vetoed some fund allocation or whatever that we passed last time, did you not?
Yes, sir, I did.
Does this compensate for that?
It
And are you going to veto it again?
veto the,
What we just did?
I want to veto the expenditures. This particular instance here, where you're putting income into it, where you, I would say this is probably the overriding the veto. It's unanimous vote, override.
That's what I want to hear.
All right. We have, oh, in your packets, I think I skipped over this, tree trimming expenses. As stated earlier, we'll keep you all informed on tree trimming and the progress, so that's where they now stand. Inside that, we're gonna go into a closed meeting. This meeting will be adjourned. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back.